This is not a bracelet. Do not be deceived by its golden glint or the story it whispers in silence. What you wear around your wrist is not merely an ornament, it is a symbol, and every symbol, whether we know it or not, comes with a burden. This is not a bracelet. This is a whisper from the unconscious, an emblem of what you dare not say aloud. Symbols arise when language fails, when the heart longs to express something too deep, too complex, too tangled for mere words. The bracelet is not just a piece of metal or leather wrapped around your wrist. It is an encoded message, a silent expression of your longing, your identity, your fear, or your pride. It speaks when your soul cannot. And most of the time, you don't even know what it's saying. You put it on without question, as if it were routine, a harmless detail. But the unconscious never moves without meaning. The bracelet becomes a signpost of your inner life, whether you're aware of it or not. It tells a story, one that may contradict the image you consciously hold of yourself. Perhaps it's a gift you can't let go of, not because of love, but because of attachment. Perhaps it signals wealth, status, or taste, disguising the anxiety of feeling invisible. Or perhaps it's worn to remember something you wish you could forget. An old wound dressed in beauty. You don't speak of the reasons. You may not even know the reasons, but the soul remembers. And when it cannot speak directly, it finds a vessel, an object, a gesture, a habit, to carry the message. This is how symbols are born. They are not chosen randomly. They rise from the deep, forged by hidden hands, shaped by memory, emotion, and forgotten experience. And once worn, they begin to speak, not just to others, but to yourself. They whisper at the edge of awareness, "This is who I am, this is what I need, this is what I fear you'll see." So do not be fooled by the silence of an object. The bracelet may never utter a word, but it speaks volumes to the one who knows how to listen. It speaks in code, it speaks in metaphor, it speaks in longing, but most of all, it speaks when the soul is no longer able to bear its own silence, and when that silence has stretched too long, too deep, too far beneath the surface. This is not a bracelet. It is the soul begging to be seen. We live in a world that teaches us to anchor our identity to what we can own. It begins quietly, first as admiration, then as desire, and finally as possession. A bracelet, a watch, a name, brand item, these are no longer things, they become affirmations. Proof, a way to say, I matter. But the moment something outside of you must confirm who you are no longer sovereign. The bracelet becomes a certificate of self, worth, forged by society and stamped by the eyes of others. It tells you you're valuable, but only because you wear it, and so, without realizing, you slip into a subtle prison, not one made of walls but of symbols. What begins as a personal expression morphs into dependence. You start needing the bracelet for confidence, for attention, for the illusion of control. It becomes a shield for insecurity, a performance of identity rather than a reflection of essence. And when the bracelet is missing, a strange emptiness creeps in, not because the object is vital, but because your sense of self has become tangled in its presence. This is the trap. The object becomes the mirror, but only shows you what you wish to see, not what you are. And so the bracelet becomes heavy, not in weight but in meaning. You don't wear it anymore, it wears you. It tells you how to walk, how to speak, who to be. It whispers, they're watching. Maintain the image. You are no longer expressing yourself. You are defending a construct. The possession now possesses you, but the truth is this: your identity was never meant to be found in a thing. It lives in your choices, your character, your quiet strength when no one is watching. A bracelet can decorate that truth, but it cannot define it. Once you need it to feel real, you have handed over the authority of your own being. You've let the external world become the judge of your internal worth. And in that moment, what you're wearing isn't jewelry, it's a chain. Beautiful, polished, admired by many, but a chain nonetheless. The deeper tragedy is not that we wear such chains, but that we celebrate them. We call them style, status, taste. But beneath the surface, they often reflect fear. Fear of being ordinary, of being unseen, of being unloved without the costume. To free yourself is not to throw the bracelet away, but to wear it without need. To see it clearly, not as you, but as a thing. A symbol, yes, but not a savior. And when you no longer require it to feel whole, only then can you say you own it. because until then it owns you. The shadow wears gold too. It does not hide only in darkness or despair. Often, it dresses in beauty, in luxury, in charm, in everything that glitters and seduces. We are taught to fear the shadow as something grotesque, something broken or monstrous. But the truth is far more complex. The shadow does not always appear ugly. It can be radiant. It can look like success, confidence, elegance. It can even wear a smile, and perhaps that is what makes it most dangerous. When the darker parts of us learn to dress themselves in refinement, they no longer warn us. They attract us. We do not run from them. We pursue them. We praise what is polished, without asking what lies beneath. That bracelet on your wrist, that watch, that ring, it may gleam with beauty, but why did you really put it on? Did it come from love or from lack? Was it chosen from joy, or was it summoned by insecurity, by the ache to be seen, to be envied, to be validated? The shadow is cunning. It evolves. When it learns that shame and fear will expose it, it adapts. It cloaks itself in aesthetics, in achievements, in sophistication. And the more we are applauded for these things, the deeper the shadow embeds itself in our psyche. It whispers, you need this, without it you're nothing. And we believe it because it wears gold, because it is admired by others, because it looks like power, but in truth, it is dependency masquerading as strength. The tragedy is not that we wear gold. It is that we believe the gold redeems us. We believe it transforms our wounds into worth, our emptiness into elegance. But no amount of shine can purify what remains unacknowledged. The unexamined hunger for recognition, the unspoken terror of being unseen, these do not disappear when we wear something beautiful. They are simply hidden more skillfully, and yet the world rarely questions this. In fact, it rewards it. The more polished the exterior, the more successful the performance, the more we are celebrated. But deep down we know when the bracelet isn't just a bracelet. We know when it's a mask. We know when it's an armor we wear so we don't have to reveal the trembling self beneath it. To confront this is not to reject beauty, but to refuse its illusion. To ask yourself not, how does this make me look? But what part of me chose this, and why? That question is the doorway to freedom. Because only when we can see the shadow in its golden disguise, only when we recognize that even our elegance can be a form of hiding, can we begin to reclaim the parts of ourselves we've handed over to the performance. So yes, the shadow wears gold too, and if you look closely, it may be wearing it right now, not to harm you, but to be seen, not to shame you, but to be met with honesty, because only what is seen with truth can be transformed, and only what is no longer hidden can be healed. The soul does not crave glitter. It does not hunger for adornment, nor is it fed by attention. What it longs for is meaning, deep, enduring, often invisible. In a world intoxicated with the superficial, we are seduced into believing that decoration equals value, that appearance is substance, that to look like something is the same as to be it. But the soul cannot be fooled. You can cover your body with gold, layer yourself with the finest symbols of success, but if there is no meaning behind them, the soul will remain restless. You may wear the bracelet, the ring, the brand, but if it is not rooted in something authentic, something real, it becomes noise. And the more noise you accumulate, the harder it is to hear the quiet truth underneath. Decoration is seductive precisely because it distracts from the ache. It gives the illusion of wholeness, even while you are fragmenting inside. But the soul is not satisfied by illusion. It does not care how the world sees you. It cares whether you are aligned with your essence. It asks only one question: why? Why did you choose this? Why do you need it? Why do you feel empty without it? And the answers, if we're honest, are rarely comfortable. Sometimes we wear things to be seen because we do not feel visible within. Sometimes we buy symbols of power because we feel powerless. Sometimes we decorate the body because the spirit feels dull, forgotten, unattended. We decorate the shell, hoping no one will notice the hollow inside, but the soul notices. It watches quietly, patiently, waiting for us to return, not to the mirror, but to ourselves. This isn't about rejecting beauty or denying art. Beauty, when it arises from meaning, is sacred. When a bracelet is worn as a remembrance of love or as a symbol of a path walked with courage, it becomes holy. It becomes a talisman of the soul's journey. But when it is worn to mask the absence of those things, to hide the unexamined pain, to perform identity instead of live it becomes empty, it becomes noise. It becomes a substitute for the real work we are avoiding, and that is the subtle tragedy. When we decorate ourselves with things that mean nothing to us, we unconsciously teach ourselves that we are nothing without them. We train our worth into objects and then panic when we're without them. We become slaves to the very symbols we once thought would liberate us. The soul does not seek to be pleasing, it seeks to be whole. It doesn't want compliments, it wants connection. It doesn't want admiration, it wants authenticity. It doesn't want decoration, it wants depth. Meaning cannot be bought, it must be built, lowly, honestly, painfully. It arises not from what we wear but from how we live, how we love, how we suffer and still choose to grow. So before you reach for the next thing to adorn yourself with, pause. Ask yourself if it's echoing something inside you or covering it. Ask yourself if it adds truth to your being or merely hides your absence, because you can decorate your life endlessly and still feel starved. But once you begin to live with meaning, even the simplest things become radiant. This is not about a bracelet. It is about remembering that you are not what you wear. You are what you carry in silence, what you endure with dignity, what you dream when no one is watching, and that is something no decoration can ever replace. Liberation does not begin when you discard the object. It begins the moment you truly see it, not as a possession, not as a symbol of status, not as decoration, but as a mirror, a reflection, an extension of something you have not yet fully understood within yourself. What you place upon your body often tells the story your voice does not. A bracelet is not just a bracelet, it is a silent witness to your inner life, chosen, consciously or not, for a reason. And when you dare to ask why, when you look at it not with admiration but with inquiry, you are standing at the doorway of freedom. To see the object as a mirror is to reclaim your power. It is to understand that the external world often becomes a stage for the internal drama we have not yet resolved. You buy the bracelet not only because you like it, but because something inside of you resonates with what it represents. Perhaps it gives the illusion of being in control, or of being chosen, or of being complete. The object becomes a story, a statement, a promise. But is it your truth, or is it a mask crafted to survive the gaze of others? When the object is seen as a mirror, it begins to speak, not in words but in symbols. It reflects your longings, your losses, your insecurities, your pride, your aspirations. And if you listen closely, it might say, "I was never about beauty. I was about who you were trying to become when you bought me." And that moment of recognition is the spark of liberation. Because once you see that the object has no meaning except the one you gave it, you are no longer bound by it. The bracelet doesn't hold power over you. You held the power all along, but the trap is subtle. We often believe we are expressing ourselves through objects when in truth we are hiding. A mirror can show you what you are, but it can also reveal what you are afraid to face. That bracelet may not just represent elegance. It may represent the absence of feeling valuable without external affirmation. It may reveal a fear of being unseen unless adorned, of being unloved unless impressive. And to see this clearly is painful, but it is sacred pain, the kind that awakens rather than wounds. The moment you begin to ask, what part of me chose this? What wound, what wish, what fear? You begin to untangle yourself from the illusion. You start to peel back the layers of performance. You stop decorating the silence and start listening to it. You realize that the object is not the prison. The belief you poured into it is, and that realization frees you. You may still wear the bracelet, but now it no longer wears you. You may still adorn yourself, but it is no longer to hide the absence. It is to express the fullness. True liberation does not require rejection, but awareness. It is not about giving up beauty. It is about no longer needing it to feel worthy. The bracelet becomes a mirror when you allow it to reflect not just how you wish to be seen, but who you are when no one sees you at all. And when that is enough, when the inner world is no longer dependent on the outer, you are free. This freedom is subtle. It does not shout or demand attention. It simply lives. It breathes through you. It no longer clings, no longer fears being without. It no longer needs to prove because it has remembered. Nothing outside of you can define what was never born from outside. When the object is no longer a mask, when it is merely a mirror, and when even that mirror can be set down, you have returned to yourself, and in that quiet returning, there is nothing left to decorate. There is only truth, and that is more beautiful than anything you could ever wear.